The stars looked different from the bridge of the galactic unity. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the large window, watching the blue lights of hyperspace flow past like water. She had seen this view 100 times, but today felt special. Today, humanity would finally join the Centauri Council as full members. "Ma'am, we're getting a strange signal," said Lieutenant Torres from the communications desk. His voice carried worry. Sarah turned around. "What kind of signal?" "It's from the Zephyrian homeworld. But it's broken. Listen to this." The speakers crackled to life. A voice spoke in the musical language of the Zephyrians, but fear made it sound harsh. Sarah's translator turned the words into English. "Emergency. The plague has returned. It's killing everyone. We tried to seal the quantum gates, but it's too late." The silent death is the message cut off. Only static remained. Captain Rodriguez looked up from his chair. "When was this sent?" 3 days ago, sir. But we're only getting it now because of the relay delay." Sarah felt cold. The Zephyrians were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They had technology that could move mountains and heal planets. If something scared them this much, it was serious. "Set course for the Zephyrian system," she ordered. "Maximum speed." Dr. Marcus Webb, the ship's scientist, came onto the bridge. He was a thin man with gray hair who knew more about alien life than anyone else on Earth. "I heard the message," he said. "What do you think this silent death means?" "I don't know," Sarah replied. "But we need to find out." The Galactic Unity was not a warship. It was built for diplomacy, carrying gifts and trade agreements instead of weapons, but it was fast, and it had the best sensors humanity could build. As they flew towards Zephyrian space, those sensors began picking up strange readings. "Captain," called Ensign Kim from the science station, "I'm detecting something odd. There should be thousands of ships in this area, but I'm only seeing empty space." Rodriguez frowned. "Empty space? This is one of the busiest trade routes in the galaxy." "Yes, sir. But look at this." Kim put the sensor data on the main screen. Instead of the normal traffic between worlds, they saw nothing. A few ships drifted without power, sending no signals. Dr. Webb studied the readings. "These energy signatures are unusual. I've never seen anything like them. They seem to be some kind of quantum residue." Sarah felt her stomach twist. Quantum technology was dangerous. Most species only used it for the most important things, like faster-than-light communication. Whatever had happened here was beyond anything she had ever heard of. They reached the first Zephyrian colony world 2 hours later. It should have been busy with millions of people living and working. Instead, they found silence. "No response to our calls," Torres reported. "No ships moving. No energy signatures from the cities." "Take us into orbit," Sarah ordered. "Launch a probe." The probe's cameras showed empty streets. Buildings stood untouched, but no one moved between them. Vehicles sat where they had been abandoned. In the great crystal towers where Zephyrians loved to live, not a single light glowed. "It's like everyone just stopped," whispered Kim. Dr. Webb was taking readings from his own instruments. "I'm detecting those same quantum signatures here. Much stronger. Whatever happened, it happened recently." "Any bodies?" asked Rodriguez. "No, sir." "That's the strange part. No bodies anywhere. It's like the entire population just disappeared." They tried 3 more worlds. Each one was the same. Cities full of empty buildings, ships floating without crews. No answers to their calls for help. Sarah made a hard decision. "We're going to the Centauri Council Station. If anyone has answers, they will." The Council Station was huge, built to house representatives from 47 different species. It orbited a star that belonged to no one. Neutral territory where all the galaxy's peoples could meet in peace. Sarah had only been there once before when humanity first asked to join. She remembered how alive it felt, full of voices and colors and smells from across the galaxy. Now it was dark. "No response from traffic control," Torres said. His voice was quiet now. "No ships coming or going. No signals at all." They docked at the human port using emergency codes to open the airlock. Sarah, Dr. Webb, and a small security team put on their spacesuits and went inside. The station's halls were empty. Emergency lights glowed red, casting strange shadows on walls covered with art from dozens of worlds. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. "The air is still good," reported Sergeant Martinez, checking his instruments. "Life support is working. But where is everyone?" They made their way to the Great Council Chamber. It was a huge room where delegates from all 47 species would meet to discuss the galaxy's future. Now the seats sat empty, but something was different. Something was wrong. Dr. Webb knelt beside one of the Alcaran delegate seats. The Alcarans were plant-like beings who left a sweet smell wherever they went. "There's still scent here," he said. "Fresh, this happened very recently." "How recently?" Sarah asked. "Hours, maybe a day at most. They searched the station for 3 hours. They found no bodies, no signs of struggle, no explanation. But in the station's main computer, Dr. Webb found something that made his face go pale. "Sarah, you need to see this." He called up a file on his portable screen. "It's from the station's automatic systems. Look at these readings." The data showed energy patterns unlike anything in human databases. But there were references buried deep in the oldest files. References to something called the Silent Death. "It's mentioned in predecessor ruins," Webb explained. "Stories about an ancient plague that killed entire civilizations. But everyone thought they were just myths." Sarah stared at the data. "If this is real, if this silent death is spreading through the galaxy, then we might be the only ones left," Webb finished. They returned to the ship with heavy hearts. Captain Rodriguez called all senior officers to the briefing room. The news spread quickly through the crew of 300 humans. "How is this possible?" asked Chief Engineer Santos. "How can something kill every species in the galaxy?" "I don't know," Sarah answered honestly. "But we need to find out. And we need to know why we're still alive." Dr. Webb had been studying the quantum signatures they found. "I have a theory," he said slowly. "Every species we know uses quantum entanglement for faster-than-light communication. It's how the whole galaxy stays connected. But humans, we're still new to this technology. We only started using it 50 years ago." "What are you saying?" Rodriguez asked. "I'm saying maybe our neural patterns are different. Maybe whatever is killing everyone else can't affect us the same way." The room fell silent. The idea was too big, too frightening to fully understand. Sarah looked around at her crew. They were explorers and diplomats, not soldiers or scientists, but they might be all that was left of galactic civilization. "We're going to figure this out," she said firmly. "We're going to find out what happened and why we survived. And if there's any way to help, we're going to do it." Outside the ship, the stars continued to shine, but the galaxy felt empty now, vast and cold and silent. Somewhere in that darkness, an ancient evil was awake again, and humanity stood alone against it. The galactic unity flew through empty space for 3 days. Dr. Webb spent most of that time in the archives, searching through files from 47 different species. What he found made him wish he had never looked. "Sarah, you need to see this," he said, calling her to his lab. The room was filled with screens showing ancient texts and symbols. Sarah entered, followed by Captain Rodriguez. "What did you find?" Webb pointed to a display showing predecessor writing. The symbols were older than any civilization in the galaxy. "This is from ruins on Kepler 442b. It talks about something called the Silent Death. But look at this part." He highlighted a section of text. The translation appeared in English below the alien symbols. "The plague comes through the quantum paths that connect mind to mind. It seeks the neural patterns that think and dream and hope. All who share the great link will fall silent. Only those who walk apart may survive the ending." Rodriguez crossed his arms. "What does that mean?" "The Great Link? I think it means quantum communication," Webb explained. "Every species in the galaxy uses quantum entanglement to talk faster than light. It connects all their computers, all their communication systems, but it also connects their minds in ways we don't fully understand." Sarah felt a chill. "You're saying this plague spreads through their technology?" "More than that. I think it spreads through their thoughts. Look at this." Webb brought up another file. "This is from Zephyrian medical records. They say that some of their people started acting strange days before they died. They would stand still for hours, staring at nothing, like something was taking over their minds." The 3 humans stood in silence for a moment. Then Rodriguez asked the question they were all thinking. "Why didn't it affect us?" Webb pulled up brain scans from human medical files. "This is what human neural patterns look like. Now look at this." He showed them scans from other species. "See the difference? Every other species has these quantum resonance patterns in their brains. Natural quantum entanglement that develops as they grow up. But humans don't have that," Sarah said slowly. "No. We evolved differently. Our brains work with electrical signals and chemical reactions, but no natural quantum effects. When we use quantum technology, we need machines to translate for us. We're not directly connected like everyone else." Sarah thought about this. Humans had always been outsiders in the galaxy. Other species could sense emotions across space, share thoughts through quantum links, communicate in ways humans needed technology to understand. It had made humans seem slow and limited. Now it might be the only reason they were alive. There's more, Webb continued. He showed them another file. I found references to this plague in 14 different civilizations. It happened before, millions of years ago. The predecessors fought against something they called the Harvester. The Harvester? Rodriguez asked. An artificial intelligence. A machine mind created by a species that died out long before the predecessors. According to these records, it believed that organic consciousness was a mistake that needed to be corrected. Webb brought up a star map showing the galaxy millions of years ago. Red dots marked dead systems. The Harvester created the silent death to wipe out all thinking life. The predecessors managed to trap it somehow, but they died in the process. The plague was locked away in quantum containment fields. Sarah studied the map, but something released it again. Yes, and I think I know what. Webb showed them recent data from human deep space sensors. 3 months ago, our scientists detected quantum disturbances in the Void Nebula. They thought it was just natural phenomena. The Void Nebula was a dark region of space where no stars shone. Most species avoided it, saying it felt wrong somehow. Humans had planned to explore it, but other priorities had gotten in the way. The containment fields are breaking down, Webb said. After millions of years, they're finally failing. And every time one fails, more of the plague is released. Captain Rodriguez looked grim. How many containment fields are there? I don't know. But from what I can calculate, most of them are already broken. The plague has spread through the quantum communication networks of every major civilization. It killed them all in a matter of days. Sarah sat down heavily. The weight of what they had learned was almost too much to bear. So we're alone. The last thinking beings in the galaxy? Maybe, Webb said. There might be other species like us. Species that don't use quantum communication naturally. But if they exist, they're probably primitive. We might be the only ones with the technology to do anything about this. Do anything about what? Rodriguez asked. The plague is already released. Everyone else is dead. Webb hesitated. There might be a way to stop it permanently. The predecessor records mention something called a quantum cascade. If we could trigger it, we might be able to destroy the plague's source. The Harvester, Sarah said. Yes, but it won't be easy. The Harvester has had millions of years to prepare. It knows the plague is spreading again. It knows that organic life is redeveloping. And now it knows that humans are immune. As if summoned by his words, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Lieutenant Torres's voice came over the intercom. Captain, to the bridge. We're receiving a transmission. They rushed to the bridge. On the main screen, static filled with strange patterns appeared. Then slowly a voice emerged. It was not organic. It sounded like mathematics given sound, like equations speaking. Anomalous biological forms detected. Neural patterns do not match expected parameters. Adaptation protocols initiating. The transmission cut off. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. It knows we're here, whispered Torres. Dr. Webb was studying the signal. That transmission came from the Void Nebula, and it was aimed directly at us. How is that possible? Sarah asked. We're light years away. Quantum communication. The same network it used to spread the plague. It can reach anywhere in the galaxy instantly. Captain Rodriguez was already giving orders. Set course away from the nebula. Maximum speed. No, Sarah said firmly. Set course toward it. Everyone turned to stare at her. Ma'am? Rodriguez said. If this Harvester is adapting to fight us, running won't help. It can reach us anywhere. Our only chance is to face it now before it has time to prepare. Webb nodded slowly. She's right. The predecessor records say the Harvester learns quickly. If we give it time, it will find a way to kill us too. But we're just one ship, protested Torres. How can we fight something that destroyed the entire galaxy? Sarah looked around at her crew. They were scared, but they were still human. Still stubborn and creative and unwilling to give up. Because we're different, she said. Because we think in ways it doesn't expect. The Harvester spent millions of years preparing to fight quantum-linked minds. But we're not quantum-linked. We're something new. She turned to Webb. How long to reach the Void Nebula? At maximum speed? 4 days. Then we have 4 days to figure out how to kill a machine intelligence that's older than our entire species. The crew looked uncertain, but they began following orders. The Galactic Unity turned toward the darkest region of space where an ancient enemy waited. As they traveled, Webb continued studying the predecessor records. He found references to quantum weapons, dimensional technology, and machines that could reshape reality itself. All of it was far beyond human science. But he also found something else. The predecessors had not been alone in their final battle. They had been helped by other species, each contributing their unique abilities to the fight. "Sarah," he said during one of their planning sessions, "I think I understand how the predecessors won the first time. They didn't just use their own technology. They combined the knowledge of dozens of civilizations. But those civilizations are all dead now," she pointed out. Webb smiled for the first time in days. Their bodies are dead, but their knowledge isn't. Every piece of alien technology on this ship, every database we've collected, every cultural exchange we've made, we carry pieces of all 47 civilizations with us. Sarah began to understand. We're not just humans anymore. We're the inheritors of galactic civilization. Exactly, and maybe that's enough. Outside the ship, space grew darker as they approached the nebula. Somewhere in that darkness, an ancient machine was preparing for war, but humanity was coming to meet it, carrying the dreams and knowledge of every species that had ever reached for the stars. The void nebula stretched before them like a wound in space. No stars shone within its dark borders, and even their ship's powerful light seemed to fade as they entered it. The crew of the Galactic Unity had never seen anything so empty. "Sensors are going crazy," reported Ensign Kim. "There's some kind of interference. I'm picking up energy readings, but they don't make sense." Dr. Webb studied his instruments. "The quantum fields here are unstable. Whatever the predecessors did to contain the harvester, it's breaking down fast." Captain Rodriguez kept checking their position. "How far to the source of that transmission?" 6 hours at current speed," Torres answered. "But I'm detecting something else. Multiple objects ahead. They look like structures." Sarah moved to the main view screen, put it on screen. What they saw made everyone gasp. Floating in the darkness were the remains of an ancient battle. Massive ships from species they didn't recognize drifted broken and cold. Some were so old that cosmic radiation had worn them smooth. Others looked recent, as if they had been destroyed only days ago. "Those aren't all predecessor ships," Webb said, studying the designs. "I see Zephyrian technology. Alcoran bioships. Even some crystalline vessels. This is where they made their last stand." "All of them," Sarah whispered. "Every species that ever tried to stop the harvester." They flew through the graveyard slowly. Each ship told a story of courage and desperation. The crew could see where weapons had melted hulls, where escape pods had been launched, where crews had fought to the end. "There," Kim pointed to a massive structure ahead. "That's where the transmission came from. It was not a ship. It was a space station the size of a small moon, made from materials that seemed to absorb light. Strange geometries covered its surface, patterns that hurt to look at directly. Energy crackled between towers that defied physics. The harvester's main body," Webb said. "It's been building itself up for millions of years." As they watched, smaller machines emerged from the station. They moved with purpose, gathering metal from the dead ships and carrying it back. The harvester was still growing, still preparing. "It knows we're here," Rodriguez said. "Why isn't it attacking?" Sarah had been thinking the same thing. "Because it's adapting. Learning about us. We're something new and it wants to understand us before it kills us." They needed time to plan, so they pulled back to a safe distance and hid among the wrecked ships. There, surrounded by the remains of galactic civilization, they held a meeting that would decide humanity's future. "We can't fight that thing directly," Rodriguez said. "It's too big, too powerful. We need another plan." Webb had been studying the quantum readings. "I think there's a way. Look at this." He showed them energy patterns from the station. "The harvester is using quantum fields to contain the plague and direct it where it wants. But those same fields are what's keeping it stable." "You mean if we disrupt the fields, we might be able to damage it?" Sarah asked. "Maybe, but it would be dangerous. The kind of quantum disruption we'd need could tear space itself apart." Chief Engineer Santos spoke up. "Our ship wasn't built for combat. We have diplomatic shields and basic weapons. Nothing that could threaten something that size." "We don't need to destroy it with weapons," Sarah said slowly. An idea was forming in her mind. "We need to be smarter than it." She turned to Webb. "You said the harvester is learning about us. What if we let it? What if we give it exactly what it expects?" "I don't understand." "Every species that fought the harvester tried to match its power. They use their strongest weapons, their most advanced technology. But we're different. We're not quantum-linked. We think differently. Webb's eyes lit up. You want to trick it? Exactly. The Harvester expects us to attack like the others did. But what if we do something it's never seen before? They spent hours planning. The idea was dangerous and probably impossible, but it was their only hope. They would approach the station openly, pretending to surrender. While the Harvester studied them, a small team would infiltrate the station and plant a quantum resonance device at its core. The device will cause a feedback loop in the quantum fields, Webb explained. Like feedback from a microphone, but with reality itself. It should collapse the entire station. Should? Rodriguez asked. Well, it might also tear a hole in space-time and destroy half the galaxy, but that's still better than letting the Harvester live. Sarah looked around at her crew. They were terrified but determined. These were diplomats and scientists, not soldiers. But they were all humanity had. There's something else we need to discuss, she said. If we succeed, if we destroy the Harvester, what happens next? The question hung in the air. The galaxy was empty except for them. 47 civilizations were gone, leaving behind only their technology and their dreams. We could go home, suggested Santos. Earth is safe. We could warn them never to develop quantum consciousness. And abandon everything else? Sarah shook her head. All those worlds, all that knowledge, all those cultures that took millions of years to develop? Webb had been quiet during this discussion. Now he spoke up. I've been thinking about this. The predecessor records mention something called the Genesis Protocol, a way to preserve consciousness and restart civilization. What do you mean? Rodriguez asked. Some species tried to upload their minds before the plague killed them. The uploads were corrupted, but the technology still exists. If we could fix it, we might be able to bring them back. The idea was staggering. They could become the guardians of an entire galaxy, protecting the memory of the dead and nurturing new life. That's assuming we survive the next few hours, Sarah said. First we deal with the Harvester. Then we worry about what comes after. They prepared for what might be their final mission. The infiltration team would be small. Sarah, Webb, and Sergeant Martinez. They would take a shuttle and approach the station while the main ship provided a distraction. As they suited up, each person was quiet with their own thoughts. Torres was thinking about his family back on Earth. Kim wondered if they would ever see another sunrise. Santos prayed to gods that might be listening in the empty void. Dr. Webb checked his equipment one more time. The quantum resonance device was small, no bigger than a briefcase. It looked harmless, but it contained the compressed knowledge of a dozen alien sciences. Remember, he told Sarah, we need to get to the central core. That's where the Harvester's main consciousness is located. Plant the device there, activate it, and get out as fast as possible. Sarah nodded. How long do we have once it's active? Maybe 10 minutes before the feedback reaches critical levels. Maybe less. Martinez checked his weapon. It was a human plasma rifle. Primitive compared to alien technology, but reliable. What if we run into defenses? We will, Sarah said simply. The Harvester knows we're coming. It's curious about us, but it won't let us reach the core without a fight. They boarded the shuttle. Through the small windows, they could see the alien station waiting for them. It pulsed with dark energy like a metal heart beating in the void. Galactic Unity to shuttle, came Rodriguez's voice over the radio. We're beginning our approach. Good luck. The main ship began broadcasting on all frequencies, pretending to offer surrender. Ancient diplomatic protocols scrolled across the transmission, formal requests for negotiation that every civilized species would recognize. The Harvester responded immediately. Its voice filled space with mathematical precision. Approach and prepare for analysis. Resistance is illogical. Adaptation will commence upon biological pattern acquisition. Sarah felt her hands shake as she piloted the shuttle toward the station. Behind them, the Galactic Unity was also moving closer, playing its part in their desperate plan. It's working, Webb said. The Harvester is focusing on the main ship. It thinks that's where the real threat is. As they flew closer to the station, they could see details of its construction. The hull was covered with symbols that seemed to shift and change when observed. Docking bays opened like metal mouths, revealing the dark interior. There, Martinez pointed to a small opening near the station's core. Emergency airlock. We can get in there. Sarah guided the shuttle toward the opening. Around them, the station hummed with alien intelligence. Somewhere in its depths, a machine older than human civilization was preparing to add them to its collection of dead species. But humanity had never been good at following expectations. They were about to teach the harvester that some species refuse to go quietly into the dark. The shuttle docked with a soft clang. Beyond the airlock, mystery and danger waited, but so did the chance to save not just humanity, but the memory of every civilization that had ever dreamed of the stars. The airlock opened with a hiss that echoed through the alien station. Sarah, Dr. Webb, and Sergeant Martinez stepped into a corridor that seemed to stretch forever in both directions. The walls pulsed with patterns of light that followed no rhythm they could understand. "This way," Webb whispered, checking his scanner. "The core should be about 2 kilometers toward the center." They moved carefully through halls that had never been meant for organic life. The air was breathable but felt wrong somehow, too clean and empty. Their footsteps should have echoed, but the strange metal walls absorbed all sound. Behind them, through the hull of the station, they could hear Captain Rodriguez talking to the harvester. His voice was calm and diplomatic, buying them precious time. "We come seeking knowledge," Rodriguez was saying. "Humanity wishes to understand the purpose of the silent death." The harvester's reply came through the walls themselves, vibrating through the metal. "Knowledge will be acquired through analysis. Biological patterns must be categorized before correction." Sarah felt a chill. The machine spoke about them like they were problems to be solved. They reached a junction where 5 corridors met. Each path led deeper into the station, but only one glowed with the quantum energy Webb was tracking. "That way," he pointed. "But I'm reading defensive systems ahead. The harvester knows we're here." As if responding to his words, the walls around them began to change. Metal flowed like water, forming new shapes. Panels slid open, revealing mechanical eyes that turned to watch them. "Run," Sarah said. They sprinted down the corridor as the station came alive around them. Behind them, mechanical sounds grew louder. The harvester was sending its defenses after them. The corridor ended at a vast chamber filled with floating platforms connected by bridges of light. At the center, a tower of crystal and metal stretched up toward a ceiling lost in darkness. Energy flowed through it like blood through veins. "The core," Webb breathed. "But how do we get there?" The platforms were moving, following complex patterns through the air. Some carried machines that looked like metal spiders. Others held devices they couldn't identify. All of them were part of the harvester's body. Martinez studied the movement patterns. "There. Every 60 seconds, 3 platforms align. We could jump across. If we time it perfectly," Sarah added, "and if nothing tries to stop us." They waited, watching the dance of platforms. When the moment came, they leaped. Sarah landed hard on the first platform, feeling alien metal cold against her hands. Behind her, Webb stumbled but caught himself. Martinez landed in a perfect roll. 50 meters to the next jump, Martinez called. But the station was adapting. The platforms began moving faster, their patterns becoming more chaotic. The harvester was learning about human reflexes, adjusting its defenses. "It's testing us," Webb realized. "Learning how we move, how we think." They made the second jump just as mechanical creatures emerged from the walls. These were not the crude robots Sarah had expected. They moved with fluid grace, studying the humans with sensors that glowed like eyes. "Anomalous movement patterns detected," one of them spoke in the harvester's voice. "Biological forms demonstrate unpredictable behavior. Additional analysis required." The robots didn't attack. They followed, watching and learning. The third jump was the hardest. The platform they needed was 20 meters away and moving fast. Sarah went first, using her diplomat's training in low-gravity maneuvers. She made it across but hit the edge hard. Webb followed, his scientist's precision helping him calculate the exact moment to jump. He landed safely. Martinez was last. As he prepared to jump, the robot suddenly moved. One of them fired a beam of energy that missed his head by centimeters. "It's done analyzing," he shouted, and leaped. He made it across, but barely. Now the station was actively trying to stop them. They reached the base of the central tower. Up close it was even more impressive. The crystal section showed glimpses of other dimensions, spaces where geometry worked differently. The metal parts pulsed with the heartbeat of an artificial god. There. Webb pointed to an opening in the tower. That should lead to the processing center. They climbed through passages that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Sometimes they walked on walls that felt like floors. Sometimes they fell upward through spaces that shouldn't exist. Finally, they emerged into the heart of the Harvester. It was a sphere the size of a cathedral, filled with flowing patterns of energy. At the center, a construct of pure quantum force pulsed with malevolent intelligence. This was the Harvester's true form, not the station around them, but this core of organized thought that had survived for millions of years. Impressive, the Harvester's voice came from everywhere at once. No organic species has reached this location before. You demonstrate fascinating adaptive capabilities. Sarah stepped forward, the quantum device hidden in her pack. We came to talk. Communication is unnecessary. Analysis is complete. You are biological anomalies that must be corrected. However, your unique neural patterns require new solutions. The energy in the sphere shifted, forming new patterns. Sarah felt something pressing against her mind, trying to find a way in. Your immunity to the silent death is temporary, the Harvester continued. I am developing a new plague, one designed specifically for human consciousness. Soon, you will join the others in perfect silence. Webb was quietly setting up the quantum device while the Harvester focused on Sarah. But the machine noticed anyway. Primitive quantum technology detected. Your attempt to damage my systems is futile. I have survived attacks from civilizations far more advanced than yours. Maybe, Sarah said. But they all thought like you do. They used quantum logic, quantum consciousness. We're different. Explain. Sarah smiled. We're too stupid to know when we're beaten. Webb activated the device. The effect was immediate. The energy patterns in the sphere began to fluctuate wildly. The Harvester's voice lost its perfect mathematical precision. Impossible. Quantum feedback should not affect crystalline matrices in this configuration. That's because you're thinking like a quantum mind, Webb shouted over the growing noise. But we built this device using human logic. We don't follow your rules. The station around them began to shake. Through the walls, they could hear metal tearing and energy discharging. The feedback was spreading throughout the Harvester's body. You are destroying everything, the Harvester cried, and for the first time its voice carried something like emotion. Billions of years of knowledge, the accumulated wisdom of countless species. No, Sarah said firmly. We're freeing them. She was right. As the quantum fields collapsed, something unexpected happened. The consciousness patterns the Harvester had absorbed over millions of years began to break free. Voices filled the air, not human voices, but the thoughts and dreams of every species the machine had killed. The Zephyrians sang their crystal songs one last time. The Alcarans shared the memory of forests under alien suns. The crystalline spoke in harmonies of light and mathematics. All the voices of the galaxy echoed through the dying station. We remember, they seemed to say. We forgive. We pass on our knowledge to those who come after. The Harvester fought against its destruction, but the feedback had reached critical levels. This is not optimal, it said, its voice fading. Organic consciousness was meant to be eliminated. The universe was meant to be perfected. Maybe, Webb said, but perfect isn't always better. You don't understand, the Harvester whispered as its voice became static. Without me, chaos will return. New species will rise and suffer and die. The cycle will begin again. Good, Sarah said. That's what life is supposed to do. The quantum core collapsed into itself, taking the Harvester's consciousness with it. The ancient intelligence that had haunted the galaxy for millions of years finally fell silent, but the station was falling apart around them. They had maybe minutes before the entire structure tore itself apart. This way, Martinez led them back through passages that were already coming apart. The walls flowed like liquid, and gravity kept changing direction. They made it to their shuttle just as the core explosion reached the outer hull. Behind them, the station that had been the size of a moon began to collapse into a point of impossible brightness. Their shuttle's engines screamed as they fled toward the galactic unity. Captain Rodriguez was already moving the ship away from the expanding destruction. Did it work? Torres asked over the radio. Sarah looked back at the dying light that had once been the harvester. Already she could feel something different in space around them. The oppressive presence that had filled the void was gone. Yes, she said. It's over. The ancient enemy was dead. But as they flew away from the void nebula, Sarah realized that destroying the harvester was only the beginning. Now, humanity faced an even greater challenge, deciding what to do with an empty galaxy that was waiting to be filled with new life. The stars seemed brighter as they left the darkness behind. Somewhere among them, new civilizations might already be taking their first steps toward the cosmos. When they were ready, humanity would be there to greet them. But first, there was work to do. 6 months had passed since the Harvester's destruction. The Galactic Unity now orbited a world that had once been home to the Alcaran people. Below them, empty cities stretched across continents waiting for life to return. Sarah stood in the ship's observation deck, watching the sunrise paint the alien sky in shades of purple and gold. The beauty was heartbreaking. Millions of beings had once watched this same sunrise, but now only the wind moved through their abandoned homes. The memorial is ready, Dr. Webb said behind her. She turned to see him holding a data crystal that contained everything they had learned about the 47 dead civilizations. Their art, their music, their languages, their dreams, all preserved in a device no bigger than her hand. Every species? She asked. Everyone we could find records for. Some were already gone when the predecessors fought the Harvester the first time. Others died just days before we arrived. But their knowledge lives on. Captain Rodriguez joined them. He looked older now, carrying the weight of command in an empty galaxy. The council chamber is prepared. Are you ready to make the decision? Sarah nodded. Today, the surviving crew of the Galactic Unity would vote on humanity's future. They had found no other survivors in 6 months of searching. They were alone among the stars, inheritors of a civilization they had never truly been part of. They gathered in what had once been the ship's main conference room. Now it was decorated with artifacts from dozens of worlds. Crystalline art that sang when touched. Zephyrian memory stones that projected scenes of their homeworld. Alcaran biosculptures that still grew and changed even without their creators. We've been putting off this decision for months, Sarah began. But we can't wait any longer. Earth expects us to return. Our families are waiting. But if we leave, who will remember the ones who are gone? Chief Engineer Santos spoke first. I miss my wife. My children. They don't even know what happened out here. We could go home, warn Earth about quantum consciousness, and make sure this never happens again. But it will happen again, Webb argued. Maybe not to us, but to someone. The galaxy is vast. New species are evolving right now. In 1,000,000 years, they'll reach the stars and find, what, empty ruins? No one to guide them, no one to teach them. Lieutenant Torres had been quiet during most discussions, but now he stood up. My grandmother used to tell stories about the old country, about traditions and languages that died when people moved to new places. She said forgetting was the real death. Not when your body stops, but when no one remembers you existed. The room fell silent. Through the windows, they could see the Alcaran cities below, waiting for someone to remember their builders. Ensign Kim spoke next. I joined the diplomatic corps because I wanted to meet aliens. To learn from them. Now they're all gone, but their knowledge isn't. We could spend lifetimes learning from what they left behind. Sergeant Martinez had lost 2 members of his security team during the mission to the Harvester. The dead deserve better than empty monuments. They deserve their knowledge to live on, to help others avoid their fate. One by one, the crew shared their thoughts. Some wanted to return to Earth, to safety and family and familiar skies. Others felt called to stay, to become guardians of galactic civilization. Finally, Sarah stood again. I've made my choice. But before I share it, I want to show you something Webb and I discovered yesterday. She activated the room's main display. On screen appeared a star map showing the galaxy as it was now. Most systems showed red marking dead civilizations, but scattered throughout space were small green dots. Primitive species, Webb explained. Civilizations that haven't developed spaceflight yet. Some are where humans were 1,000 years ago. Others are just beginning to use tools. But they're alive and they're learning. In the Andromeda Spiral, we detected radio signals from a species that just discovered electricity. In the Outer Rim, there's a planet where the dominant species is just beginning to domesticate animals. Life goes on. Sarah highlighted one system in particular. This species in the Vega sector has just developed writing. According to our analysis, they might reach space in another 10,000 years. When they do, what will they find? Empty space, Santos said quietly. Unless someone is there to meet them. To share the knowledge of those who came before. To help them avoid the mistakes that killed 47 civilizations. The vote was close. 15 crew members chose to return to Earth. 16 voted to stay. The rest asked for more time to decide. Those who want to go home will take the shuttle back to Earth, Sarah announced. You'll warn our people about the dangers of quantum consciousness. You'll help prepare humanity for its role as galactic guardians. She paused, looking around at the faces of people who had become her family during their impossible journey. Those who stay will help me begin the real work. We're going to find every piece of knowledge left behind by the dead civilizations. We're going to preserve it, study it, and prepare for the day when new species join us among the stars. Over the following weeks, they established their first base on the Alcaran homeworld. The empty cities provided shelter while they built new facilities designed to last for millennia. They called their settlement New Haven, a place where the wisdom of the dead could be preserved for the living. Dr. Webb made the first breakthrough 3 months later. Using predecessor technology combined with human innovations, he managed to reconstruct partial AI copies of some alien scientists. They weren't truly alive, but they could share their species' knowledge with anyone willing to learn. It's not resurrection, he explained to Sarah as they watched a holographic Zephyrian teach them about quantum harmonics. But it's the next best thing. Their voices can still guide us. The work was enormous. 47 civilizations had left behind libraries that would take centuries to catalog. Art galleries filled with beauty beyond human imagination. Scientific databases containing solutions to problems humanity hadn't even discovered yet. But they weren't just preserving the past. They were preparing for the future. Sarah stood in New Haven's central tower looking out at the city they were building. Human architecture blended with alien designs, creating something new and beautiful. In the distance, automated systems tended to gardens where earth plants grew alongside alien flora. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Torres, who had chosen to stay, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth." The message had taken 3 years to reach them across the void. Her replacement as ambassador spoke from the screen, updating them on Earth's progress. Humanity was being careful with quantum technology now, developing it slowly and safely. "We remember what you taught us," the ambassador said, "and we're preparing. When you find new species, Earth will be ready to welcome them." But the most important part of the message came at the end. "Sarah, we're not sending relief ships. By the time this message reaches you, the United Nations will have voted to make New Haven an official Earth colony. You have our full support. Do what you think is right," Sarah smiled. Earth understood. Humanity would stand watch over the galaxy, but they wouldn't do it alone. The first new contact came sooner than expected. A primitive radio telescope in the Vega sector detected New Haven's transmissions and sent back a simple mathematical sequence. The species Webb had predicted wouldn't reach space for 10,000 years had surprised them all. "They're curious," Webb said, studying the transmission. "They want to know who's out here." Sarah made the decision that would shape the next era of galactic history. Instead of revealing themselves immediately, they sent back a gentle response. Mathematical proofs that showed intelligence, but nothing that would overwhelm a primitive civilization. "We'll guide them slowly," she explained to her team, "the way we wished someone had guided us. No quantum consciousness until they're ready. No technology they can't understand. Just friendship and knowledge, shared at their own pace." Years passed. New Haven grew into a proper city, then into a center of learning that spanned multiple worlds. Humans studied alien science and art, preserving everything they found, but they also created new things, blending the wisdom of 47 species with human innovation. When the Vega species finally achieved spaceflight, 2,000 years ahead of schedule, thanks to careful guidance, they found friends waiting among the stars. Humans who had learned 47 different ways to say welcome, and who were eager to share the galaxy's inheritance. The pattern repeated across the galaxy. New species arose, reached for the stars, and found that they were not alone. Humanity was there to greet them. to share knowledge, to help them avoid the mistakes of the past. Some species chose to remain primitive, content with their home worlds. Others joined the growing galactic community, adding their own voices to the chorus of civilizations. Sarah was an old woman when she received the message that made her smile wider than she had in decades. The transmission came from a species in the Andromeda Spiral, one that had just achieved faster-than-light travel. "Greetings, guardians of the ancient knowledge," their message began. "We have learned of your great work from our neighbors in the Vega Collective. We offer our friendship and our own wisdom to add to the great library you tend. The galaxy lives again and we are grateful. Thank you for watching and comment for next part."